there, everyone. Dr. Tharp here. And as usual, I am on a mission, and that mission is to help those people out there who really want to reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. I am here to empower you with the knowledge and the confidence that you need to do that. And so, one big misconception that many people have is that type 2 diabetes is an age related disease that you're committed to. Once you have it, you have to stay with it. Once you have it, you have to be on medications. There's no way around it. And I'm here to tell you that is not the truth. The first line treatment for type 2 diabetes in the very early stages is actually natural. And the problem is that that formula, that secret, isn't really handed down from your doctor to you, right? Our doctors are too busy, seeing over 20 patients a day. They're too busy. And so they don't have the time to really tell you exactly what to do. And so the next best thing is to write that prescription to get your numbers down fast, right? But the reality is that the first line treatment of early stage type 2 diabetes is lifestyle changes. But why is it that most people don't achieve that? Is because the strategy is not commonly shared, right? That strategy is not, you're not guided through that strategy. So, for those of you who don't know who I am Dr. Tharp. I'm a board certified internal medicine physician. I split my time between hospital medicine and between my own practice, and that practice is very much dedicated to helping people reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. I decided to start this practice because of what I was seeing in the hospital. I was encountering people who were suffering with end stage diabetes, right? Severe complications of type 2 diabetes. And as a disease that is extremely preventable, I I knew that there was a place for this work, right? For this mission to help those out there who truly are serious about reversing the disease, who are truly are serious about avoiding medications to do that. The problem is the reason you're stuck and the reason that you feel hopeless is, well, number one, you didn't get that guidance, right? When you were first, and I'm sure you can all look back, when you were first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or maybe even pre-diabetes, and medications were proposed, a lot of you, if not all of you, were petrified about the thought of being on medications. You left your doctor's office determined to avoid medications, right? You did not leave with enough information about what to do naturally, but you and your doctor decided you'd have 3 months to get your numbers together. You left the doctor's office determined to do that. You got on the internet and you googled how can I reverse type 2 diabetes, right? Or you looked on Amazon Prime for a supplement, or you went to the vitamin store for a supplement that can probably help. You are watching, influencers talk about the different strategies to be more healthy, right? And so you have been trying those approaches and unfortunately have not gotten results. And because of that, you now feel like, okay, it's true. That is a reality that type 2 diabetes is in fact not reversible. And that's not true. The reality is that you just did not have the right strategy. You just didn't have the right guidance. And so I decided to fill that void with my practice. And the practice is pretty much the Reverse Now Challenge, where we're very much dedicated not to medications, but rather to empowering you with the knowledge that you need to truly reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. So I wanted to share with you before I jump into what that strategy is. I wanted to share with you exactly how it works, right? If you are skeptical that there is no way to naturally control your blood sugars because you've tried it all, then I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you have the right strategy, when you're doing the right strategy. So I'm going to share with you one of the results from one of the, clients, one of the extraordinary women that I had the opportunity to work with. She followed everything, right? She did everything, followed all the advice, and did things perfectly. And one thing we do is we don't hide from our blood sugars, we don't hide from the numbers. We track them. We confront those numbers, and then we regain our power over those numbers. Because I know a lot of you out there, when you see those high blood sugars, you're panicking, you feel horrible, you feel like your body is doing its own thing. You have no control, you feel like you have no control, right? And so you hide from those blood sugars, you don't want to check your blood sugars because you're afraid of what you see. So one of the things that we do is we confront those numbers, because now, as we work together, you learn how to you take control, right? And it's a very empowering experience. And so this client did just that. She confronted her high blood sugars, and when she started, you see her numbers were in the 130s. Okay, this was a number that frustrated her, that created anxiety in her, because she knew about the potential complications she could have. And look what happened after just 5 days of following this system, right? The natural system, the natural evidence based approach, science backed approach. Look what happened to her blood sugars. They went from the 130s and steadily came down right down to 80. So these results were extraordinary, but it's just here to show you that it works. And you probably have not seen that with your blood sugars, right? You've been doing the supplements, you've been doing the teas, you've been walking after every meal, and still haven't seen a change. You've cut carbs out completely and might not have seen a change. So you have you feel like you've done everything, but the reality is you really have not truly done everything. You really have not truly done everything. So that is what I want to talk to you tonight about. And so, one of the major let's talk about some of the major mistakes that we make when we are trying to control blood sugars, before we jump into what you should be doing. So one major mistake is that when you first get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or you go in and your doctor says your numbers are worse, it's time to start medications, you leave and you're still hopeful that there's a solution. And then you remember the advice that you got, okay, about juicing or smoothies and how good it is for your blood sugar. So you jumped on that bandwagon, right? And you started juicing, or you started eating, oatmeal every morning, or you started doing a healthy smoothie every morning. And surprisingly, your blood sugars still have not responded. Well, the problem there is that information out there, that information that people are saying is healthy, it might be healthy for the average person, but it is not healthy for you, for your blood sugar issues. Okay, so that is one major takeaway that I want you to have for tonight. What is healthy for everyone is not necessarily healthy for you. So, yes, smoothies can be made healthy. There are some bad smoothies too, but health smoothies can be healthy. But the question is it blood sugar healthy? Is it really going to help your blood sugars? So that is the first thing to remember, is that what's healthy for the average person without type 2 diabetes is not necessarily healthy for someone who has for someone who has type 2 diabetes. So you really have to audit the information that you are taking from, whether it's the internet, whether it's from influencers, health influencers. You have to audit that information and assess, is this right for me? The next big mistake that I see made is intermittent fasting. There is a place for fasting. no doubt. But the problem is when you are doing the DIY fasting approach, you get into trouble. You get yourself into trouble, and time and time and time again, that's what I see. And to be honest, that is where a lot of the frustration comes in. And that's where a lot of the low energy comes in. Yes, blood sugars can drive low energy, but when you are fasting and you're doing intermittent fasting and you're doing it just based on what you saw on the internet and you don't have any real guidance, then that is where you are really not nourishing your body appropriately. Yes, you might trim some weight, but how long does that last? I'm sure there are some of you here who have lost weight, who have seen results with intermittent fasting, but how long did that last? Because the way you were doing it was unsustainable. You felt horrible on it. You couldn't wait. You couldn't wait to be out of that fasting period so you could eat something good, right? Your cravings were going through the roof. And so you might have shed a few pounds, but then in a couple weeks you gain that back and maybe even some more on top of that. So intermittent fasting, there is a place for fasting, but you have to do it the right way. And then the third big mistake that I see made is that, and this one is pretty common, is the misconception that becoming a vegetarian will solve your problems when it comes to type 2 diabetes. And again, that is a huge misconception. In reality, if you become a vegetarian, you just made things a bit more complicated, to be honest. So, becoming a vegetarian, there's nothing wrong with becoming a vegetarian, but you make it a bit harder on yourself. Okay. So, the reason becoming a vegetarian is not the best thing, if you're doing it solely for type 2 diabetes, is not the best thing, is that many people are protein deficient already. People who have type 2 diabetes most of the time are protein deficient. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that means. But when you become a vegetarian, it becomes harder to get your protein. It's hard enough when you're not a vegetarian. It becomes even harder to give your body enough protein. And the problem there is, as a vegetarian, if you are a type 2 diabetic, your protein sources can also have a lot of carbohydrates in there, a lot of sugars in there, right? So it's really important to understand, and I'm sparing you that pointless journey, if that's what you're considering, is don't become a vegetarian for the sole purpose of reversing type 2 diabetes. It does not work. You get into more trouble. If you are already a vegetarian, you've been a vegetarian your whole life, most of your life, um, then, and you have type 2 diabetes, then I recommend you get guidance. You get the guidance that you need so that you are nourishing your body appropriately and so that you are able to understand exactly what you have to do to control those blood sugars. Because as a vegetarian, it does take a bit more savvy in order to achieve those goals of reversing type 2 diabetes naturally. So, those are the top three mistakes. Now, let's talk about what you should be doing. And the easiest way for me to describe this is, let's talk about the system first. So, most of you here have tried one or two things in isolation. It maybe worked for a short period of time, and then you found yourself back at square one. Very likely, you're doing one or two, maybe of the right things, maybe you have the right idea, but the problem there is that you're doing it in a way that's not sustainable, right? And so it's really important to have your system down, meaning trying one or two things to reverse type 2 diabetes doesn't work. It's actually a obligate system. Okay, there's a lot of moving parts, and those moving parts need to move in the right way simultaneously, right? So, doing one or two things, you might see some improvement with your blood sugars, but not complete improvement like we're seeing here. Okay. Again, let me share with you This is what the system does. The system takes your blood sugar from the 130s down to 82 in a matter of days if you're doing things the right way in the system based approach, not just one or two things, but a system based approach. So, the system based approach is number one, nutrition. And that's of no surprise to anyone here. Nutrition is key. Your reversing type 2 diabetes starts in the kitchen. And that is why I have formulated a free jumpstart kit. Because the number one question that I get is, what should I eat? I don't know what to eat. And that is a sticking point for so many people. Um, so I did formulate a jumpstart kit, free jumpstart guide that will help at least help you figure out where you are. Okay, what are your eating habits like? How how good are your eating habits? How bad are your eating habits? Do you fall in the intermediate range? So there is a some quizzes there to help determine where you fall. And then, in addition to that, there is a guide that helps you to understand how is your kitchen, to audit your kitchen. So that is why I've formulated a whole lesson on how to get started. And so you can access that in the link in my profile. It's a link tree link in my bio. I'm across all the platforms, so Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. However, if you go to my profile or my bio, you should see a link tree link there. You can click that and you will see many tabs. But one tab is the Jumpstart Kit. It's a Jumpstart guide, a free Jumpstart guide that will get you started. And that means you're doing an audit of yourself, an audit of your kitchen, and there's a grocery list there to help guide what you should be doing. So that is the first thing that I wanted to share. So nutrition is key. It's really a huge part of it. But there is the rest of the system that you have to use as well. The way you move your body is important. And that is the other reason, not just for blood sugar control, but for muscle maintenance as well. So um, the reason protein is so important is we need to keep muscle on our body or even grow muscle on our body. So the way you move your body is important as well. Walking is important as well. So movement is important. Then the habits, right? The habits. So we talked about nutrition, a huge part of it, movement, another huge part of it. But then there's the habits that we have around these two things, okay? And that is what's going to create our entire system. The habits typically are, what are you doing from day to day? What do you do when you get up in the morning? What time do you eat? What time do you start drinking water? It's these things. What is your stress level like? Because stress plays a huge role in blood sugar control as well. And one particular pattern that I have seen across the board is that type 2 diabetes really does typically affect the high functioning person, the person who is so busy achieving everything else. They're busy with work, they're busy with kids, they are business owners, they are in school, furthering themselves in school. They're so busy that they have lost touch with self-care. They've lost touch with proper nutrition. And so, because they're on the go, type 2 diabetes sets in. So, I usually say it is the disease of the busy person, to be honest, the high functioning person, because you are so busy trying to do everything else that you forget how to take care of yourself. So, your habits are also important, and that creates pretty much your system, right? And so, you have to get all of those working perfect in perfect unison in order to see those blood sugars respond the way they respond again here, where you have that huge drop, 135, 120, 112, 82. And that is where she is to this day, still in the 80s. Okay, so that's a normal blood sugar. So for those of you who are tracking your blood sugars and don't know what your range is, you are tracking your blood sugar. You know very well what the ranges should be. But anything less than 100 is the desirable number. 70 to 100 is the normal range. Anything less than 70 is low, but we know low is not your problem. We know high is your problem. And high is what creates all that chaos in your body. High is what's destroying your nerves. High is what's destroying the back of your eyes. So now you have blurry vision. High blood sugar is what's destroying the blood vessels in your legs, in your heart, in your brain. High blood sugar is what leads ultimately to strokes, heart attacks, and amputations. And so it is what I see as a hospital doctor. Again, every day, not one day goes by that I don't encounter someone who is suffering a complication from type 2 diabetes. And so that does not have to be you. So if you are tracking your blood sugars and you totally understand that anything over 100 is considered high. If you are hovering 100 to 125, you have not been diagnosed, you're probably in the pre-diabetic range. And if you are over 125 consistently as a fasting blood sugar, you are a type 2 diabetic. Again, this is something you want to discuss with your doctor. This is a diagnosis. If you're concerned about it, you want to go to your doctor to get that diagnosis. And again, don't be afraid of the number. You see the numbers, you confront it, and then you say, what am I going to do about it? So, nutrition is key. The big thing with your plate, let's talk about how to design your plate. Your plate, um, your plate should there are 4 5 areas that we have to pay attention to on our plates, or we need every macronutrient there is. So we need our protein, which I stressed earlier. Protein helps with blood sugar control. It helps slow our digestion down so we don't have very high blood sugar spikes, and it maintains muscle on our body and helps us build muscle. The second is carbohydrates. So some of you have been told to eliminate carbohydrates completely. Some of you have actually done keto diets. Okay, and you saw results temporarily, but then you probably got diagnosed with a high cholesterol levels, right? Or when you came off of the keto diet, you gained the weight back and then some more. So keto is where you are dramatically reducing the amount of carbohydrates. I always say, yes, carbohydrates we have to be careful about, but you never want to eliminate the carbohydrates completely. Carbohydrates play a role in our bodies. We don't want to get rid of it. Our bodies need that. But what I always say is audit the quality of your carbohydrates. So I know most of you here have already cut out the white bread. You've already cut out the white bread, the white rice. I know you've done those things because most of the women I work with have already done that. They've already cut those things out. So I know you've done that. But for those of you who have not done that, that is where I would start. Cut the white bread out, cut the white rice out. Your body cannot handle that. Those things are stripped of fiber, of nutrients. It is just plain calories. They're empty calories. The minute it hits your mouth, it starts to break down into sugar. And that is why you have such an incredible blood sugar spikes, right? Because throughout the day, if you're having bread for breakfast, bread for lunch, rice for dinner, now you're giving yourself a nice, steady, high blood sugar all day long, and that is destroying your body. So, the easiest thing you can do is cut those things out, but always think about what can you replace it with. And replacing it means replacing it with quality carbohydrates, carbohydrates that are going to serve your body and give you fiber. So, one example is sweet potato. For me, sweet potato is my go to. I love it. It's full of antioxidants, vitamins, fiber. It's natural. So you want to audit the quality of your carbohydrates, and you want to aim for carbohydrates that will serve your body. Okay. So we talked about protein, carbohydrates, and fats. I always say don't fear fat. Good fats are important as well. Actually, the only thing you should be having are good fats, and your good fats are your olive oil, your avocado oil, your avocados, your olive oil, your seeds, and your nuts. And then lastly, fiber. And typically fiber should be spread out through that entire plate that I just described. That fiber should be in your carbohydrates. That fiber should be possibly in your fats, because avocado is very high in fiber. So fiber should be present in every meal that you're having. You should be having at least 25 grams of fiber for the whole day. So it's really, really important to have your fiber. That is critical for blood sugar control as well. And so that pretty much sums up, just a quick overview of the system, right? Now, is that going to solve your issue right here and right now? To be honest, not necessarily, because the process of getting your blood sugars down is really a day by day process. It's really a process of truly understanding what your body needs specifically. It's not a one size fits all. It really boils down to what is your issue, what are the habits that you have, what how much nutrition does your body need, how much can your body take. So that is why going on the internet and looking at information and thinking that that information is going to solve your problem, or buying a supplement and thinking that supplement is going to fix your issue, the reality is it's not, because it really does boil down to having that step by step guidance and looking at the numbers, looking at your body first, making the numbers, confronting what your blood sugars are doing, and then figuring out where to make tweaks. Doing it in a way that's sustainable so you can do it forever and ever. As they say, how long does it take to create a habit? Typically 3 months. 3 months is what it takes, 3 months of consistency to form a habit. So, in order to once and for all beat type 2 diabetes, it's really about forming the knowledge that you need to do it, giving your body what it needs specifically, not based on one size fits all information, and actually doing it consistently, time after time. So the accountability is there for you. So you are showing up. And in addition, that is where I come into the picture, right? Because a lot of you don't know if what you're doing is right. You're not sure if what you're doing is right. And then you get frustrated because the blood sugars aren't responding, but you really don't have anyone to turn to. Yes, and you desperately want to avoid medications. You're wishing you could talk to your doctor about how you can do it without medications, but the reality is that is not the culture of traditional medicine. So that is why I'm here, is I understand the importance of working overtime to form habits, to give you the knowledge it needs, and to be there along the way so we can tweak things, so we know where you are along the journey. So that is what I do. And again, I can show you what we do works. It's science backed, it's evidence based. You're comfortable through the process. You are not fasting, you are not feeling low energy. You are just reversing your numbers. As you can see here, the numbers came down, very quickly over 5 days, just off of a system. But again, it's all about understanding what your body needs. So with that, I hope I've inspired you by at least putting it out there that yes, you can reverse type 2 diabetes naturally, with the right strategy, with a sustainable strategy, with a strategy that makes you feel comfortable so you can keep it up forever. I hope that tonight I have inspired you to avoid the complications, because again, as a doctor who splits my time between the hospital, where I take care of end stage diabetics, and where I spend the time here in the office where I truly help people reverse their condition, I can tell you avoiding the complications is all about action. It's all about the right action and not wasting your time on the wrong actions. The right actions and the right strategy will get you the results. If you feel like you've tried everything and it didn't work, very likely you did not try everything, but you pretty much tried all the wrong things. And that is why I'm here tonight, is to spread the word that this is possible. But again, no supplement. Supplements are not science backed. There's no evidence a supplement will reverse your type 2 diabetes. If so, then we would not have the kind of diabetic epidemic that we have. Okay. So, with that, I'm going to close off. But if you are really ready and serious and want to take action so that you don't become a statistic, you don't become one of the complications, you don't develop one of the complications, so you don't become one of the people that I take care of in the hospital, take action. And that action is to simply click that link in my bio, the Linktree link. You can book a free 15-minute discovery call, and that way you can talk to us about what we do, the services we offer, and how we can go with you on your journey to reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. So click the link, book the call. It's all about action, the action that can change the trajectory of your future. All right, with that, I am always open to comments, to questions. I am open to topic suggestions. I always try to bring those questions and topics here to the lives. And if you have any questions that are a bit more personal, you would prefer to DM me, I'm always open to DMs as well. So, with that, have a good night, everyone, and I will see you tomorrow night.